Ladies and gentlemen, this number for Palantir Technologies is shocking, and I think we need to pay more attention to it, as this really could be critical for Palantir trading over the next few weeks, especially before 2024 comes to an end. Now, we see Palantir cool off slightly, down about 2% with the trading day and what we're seeing in the after hours right now, but however, a little bit of a rally in support that actually saved Palantir's price towards the end of the trading session. If you're new to the channel or a returning viewer, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just collecting the data and dispatching it to you. This is all my own opinion. But let's talk about what we're seeing with Palantir Technologies, what we could be seeing in the near-term future that we have been talking about in the most recent videos, and also what this shocking number is that we'll be highlighting in a few moments later throughout the video. Now, talking about Palantir, we see this opening up and holding at about 19, and throughout the day, we see Palantir come down here and test a support level at about $18. Now, remember, if you're newer to Palantir or if you've been laying under a rock for the past few days, Palantir exploded after the Q3 earnings rally, and we saw an explosion going up here from the 14s all the way up immediately, creating this large gap here into the 17s all the way through the 19s. What we see with Palantir is a little bit of a cool off today and followed by a rally by the end of the day, finding a close at $18.55. Now, there's a ton of volatility around these price targets in terms of the 19s and the 17s for Palantir, considering we still have trading volumes at about 80 million, but also the implied volatility for options at the end of this week that are expiring, the November 10th expirations. You're seeing lots of call options past the 19s, and in terms of puts, vice versa, we're seeing lots of trading volume and implied volatility there in the 17s. So we could see a lot of volatility coming here in the next few days, especially by the end of the week. And this is what we need to talk about, is where does Palantir sit now after we've had earnings being released? What's its next catalyst? Its next bullish catalyst that we've really been waiting for is for them to officially confirm that they have secured the National Health System United Kingdom contract. They've been the top bidder. We've seen this for a long time, and we should hopefully see an announcement soon that could push Palantir past its year-to-date high, which is its biggest form of resistance in the recent past, and that is at about $20. Palantir is close to that level as we speak. You can see back here in the beginning of August, Palantir tested and touched that $20 resistance, and we saw an immediate correction after those earnings were reported in line back to the 15s right here. Palantir is trading around these areas, and this is why price can be very volatile and incredibly important. But one thing that we do need to recognize, and I agree with the Seeking Alpha article right here, is the greed and avoiding the costs that do come associated with that greed for Palantir. What I mean, going more deeply into the analysis of this stock, is Palantir is up like over 20% in the last week, and we saw this massive surge over the past week as we saw it post a solid Q3 earnings, and we also saw the guidance, which was a large component to the rally, being upgraded for Q4 and the fiscal year of 2023, really collaborating and associating a lot of its growth with its recent AIP software, which is starting to be captured in its earnings, and we're seeing the demand for AIP in terms of customer growth among Palantir. So I'm not ripping Palantir at all, but rather than what the investors are actually paying for is a different situation. But Palantir as a company is doing really well, and I think as a long-term growth stock is a very bullish company that is within the AI sector and also within the software industrial sector, and being a leader that is a very competitive market. Palantir is competing with some of the top chip stocks that we're seeing right now. And what we have on top of that is the consecutive fourth quarter of GAAP profitability, which allows it and fulfills the criteria for the S&P 500 inclusion. We've seen this as this comes more to fruition, and we see more media articles talking about this and more of an actual actual realistic news about when this could be possibly included, I think we might see an additional rally coming into Palantir. But one thing that we do need to focus on right now is its valuation is immensely high. And if you're sitting on the sidelines and Palantir is on the watch list looking to get into a long-term growth position, with Palantir right now rated as an F by a Seeking Alpha Quant, suggesting the steep growth premium, the number that we talked about that is really shocking right now is the adjusted price to earnings multiple, which is 65.7. And this does collaborate to a highly expensive valuation. And investors really need to be keen on what these current levels for Palantir mean, and with the optimism of the 2024 guidance, what could the near future bring for Palantir? Now, we have a very strong resistance zone that's in the near future, and with that, it could be tested here in the next week. With selling pressure, this could return immensely if this resistance is not met, and this gap that was basically created in a matter of just less than 24 hours between the aftermarket and the pre-market of the earnings call, this gap does need to be settled down in a little bit. Support might need to get tested here. Remember, Palantir has a strong level of support here between the 14s and the 16s, where we saw consolidations for months and months on end before those Q3 earnings came out. And talking about that, it seems that a lot of really bullish news for Palantir has been released in the most recent few weeks ahead of those Q3 earnings. That's not necessarily a bad thing at all. Like I said, still bullish on this company long term. But with the highly aggressive valuation and the overindulgence of bullish media, when everything seems to be going very well, this is when people should start to become fearful. Like a lot of people always talk about in the stock market, when others are greedy, be fearful, and when others are fearful, that's when you can be greedy. Vice versa, the stock does have a large emotional component to it rather than the actual fundamentals behind the company. And that collaborates and really correlates with Palantir's valuation that we're speaking of right now. Are these prices being priced into Palantir really representing more of a future point in the company? And do the earnings and the revenues need to grow into these current valuations? Now, that doesn't mean that Palantir couldn't continue to trade for a higher premium. We've seen this with many other stocks, such as tech stocks, and Tesla is a prime example, always being very highly valued as investors are always taking a bullish bet and willing to pay a premium price to get a hold of some of their stock. But like I said, Palantir right now and what we're seeing is a leader, and what we do need to acknowledge is the valuation. And with the high price to earnings, and especially the adjusted earnings right now, what we're seeing is that Palantir might be a highly risky and speculative AI stock in terms of the short terms. And that's where we're going to see a lot of volatility. However, Palantir trading and becoming more of a mature stock by seeing this consecutive profitability, and like I said, with possible inclusion in the S&P 500 in the near future, we could see Palantir being a great long-term growth company. But right now, I just don't think we're going to see that price continue to accelerate. And that's my own general opinion. Of course, we could see it. And I think the thing that would push it past that and would prove me wrong is that Palantir has enough of a bullish catalyst and buying pressure and momentum to push it past that $20 resistance zone. That would be the breakout zone that we would see Palantir testing the high-end price targets that we've seen for the stock, which is around $25. Only time will tell. I want to know, what do you guys think is going to happen here in the near future before the end of the year? We're only about less than 2 months away before we bring in that new year. What do you think will happen to Palantir by then? And what do you think its price will be? Talk to you guys later. Peace out.